Good morning from overcast and weirdly bright Central Portugal. It rained yesterday. I'm very happy about that. The land is happy. Everyone's happy, I'm sure. It's very good news, and we've got more rain coming our way as well, so that's most excellent. Also, most excellent is today's video. I'm super excited to show you guys this. It's a video all about cob, my favorite building material. What is cob, you ask? Let me show you. It's an amazing material. I love building with it. It's key in the world of natural building. And rather than me just talking about it, let's dive right into the video where I'll show you exactly what it is and what I'm doing with it. This is a two-parter. The video got really long. I just get quite excited about cob, I gotta say. So I turned it into two parts, but I'm not gonna make you wait a whole week to get to part two. Part two will be coming out tomorrow at 5 p.m. So Saturday at 5 p.m. So look forward to that. And enough about all that stuff. Let's get straight into the video and I will check in at the end. I hope you enjoy it. Today is finally the day that I continue work on the cob wall that I've started a long time ago in my living area. It's meant to divide the space between my wood stove and make a sort of border to a closet, and then my solar system is on the other side. It's been a work in progress for a long time. I've had the clay sitting in buckets for a long time, and I actually started this probably a year ago, and I started this portion of the project when I got more clay several months ago when I did a bunch of clay tests. So cob is a mixture of sand, straw, and clay and water, and you mix it all up and it makes an awesome substance to work with. And you add different levels of sand and straw depending on what you're working on. And so I did several tests where I basically added different levels of sand, straw, and clay and formed them into different shapes, with the idea being that I would try to break them and see what was the strongest. I did these tests probably about 4 months ago. Do I remember which one is which? I do not, but I can go back to the footage and have a look. So basically, I just got the straw, got the sand, and sat down, mixed everything up, and formed it into different shapes, and stuck it on the lid of a bucket, and there it has sat for many, many months. Any kind of soil you get, any kind of clay you get, it'll obviously have certain kinds of other things in it, higher or lower levels of sand. The clay I have now in buckets is from my friend's land. It's beautiful, it's red, it looks amazing. But I don't know the level of sand in there, and so that's what the experiments are for. You need a certain level of sand in order to make it so it doesn't crack. Pure clay will shrink and expand and stuff, and it'll crack. The straw and the sand sort of reinforce the clay, and the straw binds it together with tensile strength, and the sand is what goes in to stop it from cracking so much. I can already tell that it's super rich clay, and I'll need sand to go in there for sure. So let's take a look and see what we've got. As I mentioned, I've had these experimental sausages, etc. sitting here for several months, and now it's time to take a look at how strong they are. So I've consulted the original footage, and based on the location of things on the tray, this one has the most sand in it compared to clay, and it seems very strong. That one's a bit more brittle, and then this one has the same amount of sand as this one, but a lot more straw. So yeah, it's pretty strong, and then the straw also gives it this sort of tensile strength. That's good news because I don't have a good source for clay. And even though getting sand is very annoying because I have to go get it myself, at least I have a source for it. So mixing about 50-50 sand to clay will make my clay go a lot farther. And that will mean I can build more with it. So that's good. Sausages. Yeah, unbreakable. The unbreakable sausage. Yeah, I gotta say, I'm really happy with these tests. I feel confident about the amount of sand I'm gonna add in, and I'm ready to get started. I jumped the gun a little bit on the cob. I'm actually not ready yet to start with the cob. I have a bit of woodworking I need to do first because this wall that I'm working on will extend above the short wall, making a wall of the closet. So it'll form one side of the closet, the future closet. And I'm going to do that in a technique called wattle and daub. And in order to make things consistent and in order to make my life a little bit easier, it makes more sense for me to start the wattles, which are the pieces of wood that go across, from the very bottom. So rather than jumping straight into the little cob wall now, I'm going to do some carpentry, get some of these wattles in place, which is just pieces of wood that go across horizontally. And then after that, we can get muddy. This wood here is what I'm going to be using to finish off the closet. And this wood, I asked you guys to guess what it was for in the last video. This is going to be for wattles, which is basically the wood that goes horizontally that the clay is built onto to create what's called a wattle and daub wall. So I'm using this wood for my wattles, but if I had a forest, if I had a source of mimosa that was handy, or some other sort of thin wood, I think hazel is good. But mimosa is great because it's invasive here and it's just constantly growing and constantly needing to be cut down. So if anyone's looking for a very sustainable source of this kind of material, something to use for wattles, mimosa makes a great source for that. So if I wanted to be truly sustainable with this, the best thing to do would be to go to one of my friends' places. They have plenty of mimosa. I would chop down pieces of the correct size, help them clear the forest. I would get the material to go across. A friend of mine who lives nearby at Kila Yoga Farm, he builds with stuff from his land. So he uses his own mimosa and does a lot of wattle and daub. And that's really the ideal way to do things. Unfortunately for me, I don't have, well, actually fortunately, because it's really annoying, it's invasive and it's a fire hazard, I don't have mimosa on my land. So I don't have that quick source of wattles. Plus, I want more of a straight finish for this cupboard. I don't want kind of a curvy, wavy look. I want it to be fairly uniform and straight. So that's why I'm using these pieces rather than branches, which tend to be wavy and curvy, which gives an awesome look, but it's not the look I'm going for. So that's why I've opted to buy these guys, and I'll be using these for most of my wattle and daub wall building endeavors. So I need to cut a few to size and then fasten them in place, and then I can start cobbing. Okay, I'm gonna carry on bashing these guys into there. Eventually, I'll have a design up here in glass bottles or something. I'm not really sure what I'll do, but the light from the inside will shine to the outside. But for now, I'm just trying to build up a straight edge, probably up to the height of the cob wall, which will be the height of the stove, more or less. So once I get maybe 5 or 6 more in, I'll start with the cobbing. Clay doesn't really like sticking to wood, so that's why in some places I've put nails in the wood. It likes to grip on to metal, okay, but wood, it kind of wants to slide off the surface. So this isn't necessarily an ideal setup, but what I'm going to try to do is make a fairly straw-heavy mix and sort of drape the straw through the middle so that when I come to add more clay, it's actually gripping onto the straw that's going over top of the wood rather than trying to grip onto the wood. So if I tried to plaster this just with clay, it wouldn't stick. But if I have other clay for it to stick to, it'll be fine. So that's the idea. This is the height that I'm going to bring the wall to, and I wonder if I can get most of it done today because I have this extra wood support. I have a feeling I'll need to stop and let it dry because of the front part. So this front side of the wall here, it doesn't have anything to grip onto, and plus I've sloped it down at kind of a treacherous angle, so that might not have been smart. I'm gonna wet it really well and hopefully it'll stick on fine. And this side will probably be the side that might stop me from going higher because it'll want to slump at a certain height because the weight gets too much up top, it'll want to push it down. So I could go quite high on this side, but I'll likely have to stop and let it dry on this side. Now I need to get this really, really wet and then go mix some cob. So mixing cob isn't an exact science at all. You could never really say, okay, cob equals 2 buckets of clay, 1 bucket of sand, 1 bucket of water, and 1 bucket of straw. It doesn't really work like that. You sort of have to go by feel. So I'm quite fortunate to have all this experience with cob, and so I know that this mix that I just made needs a lot more clay. What I'm looking for basically is just something that's sticky, but not too sticky. It's hard to describe. Right now it's way too sandy, and I know that if I was to try to sort of smear it onto the wall or pack it onto the wall, it would just crumble away. So I definitely need more clay, but you can also go too far where it becomes more of a sticky mess and it's hard to get off your hands, and you're looking for something in between those two extremes. And then once I get to a point where it feels right, I'll add some straw in at that point. So that's more like it. That's what I'm going for, I think. It's a bit more sticky, but not so sticky that it stays on my hands. So it looks like it's going to be, with this clay that I have now, a mix of 1.5 buckets of clay to 1 bucket of sand. And this is a ball of cob. What do you think, Mikey? It's a bit weird having a wheelbarrow in the house, but it's better than being in the hot sun. Wouldn't you agree? No comment. And now, enjoy the soothing sounds of cob. So I'm really happy with how this is going. It's beautiful clay. I need to see if I can get some more of it. It's wonderful, super sticky, and it's going really nicely. It is slumping in a few places, so I'm gonna let this dry a bit. Once it dries a little bit more, I'll be able to come back and shape this shelf alcove thing that I'm working on, and I'll also be able to smooth out the wall to be a bit flatter. Having a smooth finish on this wall will mean that the next layer, the final clay render coat, will go on a lot easier. I've never done clay render before, and I'm not so experienced with final renders, so the smoother and flatter the wall I can get, the easier it'll be later on. So I'll let it dry a bit, come back with a trowel, and refine everything, and then add another level of clay on, and I should be able to get up to about halfway and maybe finish tomorrow, which would be really amazing. So it's about 5:30 p.m. And I feel like the cob has had a bit of a chance to get more solidified, so probably won't want to slump quite as much, and I can probably sculpt it a little bit. I'm gonna pack on another layer. Like I said, I'm gonna do another wheelbarrow full, the same size as last time, so it'll be kind of a smallish mix, but I think that'll be plenty to get to a level where I'm halfway so that I can finish off tomorrow. That's the idea anyway, so let's get mixing. That's surprisingly tiring for just working in a teeny tiny space, but you've got to push the cob on with a bit of force, and it's a really tiny, awkward space. I'm out of cob. I'm going to finish for the day, and basically all I need to do now is wet my hands and smooth the surface as much as possible. Make it flat. I'll get a trowel, and then I'll score it so the next layer has something to grip onto. And then I'll call it. I'm going to make some dinner and enjoy a quiet evening in. Cob, it's amazing. In case you can't tell, I'm a big fan. I'm going to be using it on lots of projects around my land and loads and loads of stuff inside the house as well. So I'm excited to show you all the projects I'm going to do in the future. I'm also excited to show you part 2 of the video, which will be out tomorrow at 5. So Saturday at 5 p.m. So keep an eye out for that. I hope you love cob as much as I do. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, please like, subscribe, comment, share the video around. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow for cob part 2.